Hi, folks, and welcome to the Political Matrix News. I'm Scott Miller, and this is my partner Greg Fink. February 18th, and we look on the old calendar
Yeah.
there. And yeah, politics. I'd like to say it's a special day in politics, but every day is a
Every
special
day
day
is
in
special day.
politics.
Every day is special in politics.
Every day's special.
It's always special. We're special people. It's a special
Yeah,
time, but
one day is just like the next these
it
days
is.
because with the Democrats once again not only finding themselves on the 20% side of an 80-20 problem, but enthusiastically embracing the 20% side of an 80-20 problem.
Which one are you talking about?
Save America Act.
Save America Act.
Yeah, what a bunch of goofballs. I mean, this is so crazy.
Well, I mean, go ahead, talk about it.
Well, I mean, even 75% of Democrats think that you should have to show an ID to vote, and they keep throwing the same little things out there. Well, it's going to be so hard for someone. There are some. Not everyone can vote. Can get all their ID and get everything together, but they still have the right to have their voices heard. Well, let me tell you something. My experience as someone 30 years in political campaigning, if they don't have the wherewithal or the inclination to have the materials that the Save Act requires you to have to vote, you're not interested in voting anyway.
Well, what's the
But if you
que-
really want to, if you really want to see how hard it is to get those people to vote, or not even to get them to vote, how much trouble those people have having the correct documentation to vote, just go to any convenience store next to an economically depressed area and watch all the people who can barely string a sentence together, male and female, that are coming in and buying booze and cigarettes and having to show their ID to do it.
So I guess a big question though is that because you actually read the bill, and I was on a podcast last night, which is our sister podcast, the Guardians of the Republic, and they were talking about you needed a birth certificate and a passport and blah 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 all this other stuff. And I was saying, yeah, granted, if you had to have all that, it is a little laborious, but I don't think that's the case.
That is
Is
not the
it?
case. So what you have to have is either a real ID, like if you're a state issue ID that conforms to the real ID program,
Well, it should be like a driver's
or
license.
a driver's license, state issued ID, either one,
Okay.
or you could have, or if you live in a state that doesn't have real ID compliant IDs, then you can have your driver's license, your state issued driver's license, and your birth certificate. And that's it. Your birth certificate and your passport, your birth certificate, and like 10 different things. Just your birth certificate and your passport.
But isn't there, I mean, the birth certificate though, isn't that a little, I mean, I don't have mine. And so, I mean, I guess.
If I told you today that you have to have your birth certificate in order to vote in in August, do you think that in the next, I don't know, what's it, 6 months, you could come up with a birth certificate?
But that's the difference between you're talking about somebody who's a likely voter versus somebody who is a nonchalant voter who might just think at the last minute they want to go vote. Did I have their birth certificate on them? I mean, will they be able to vote?
No, but so what? No, but so what?
Well, I mean,
Greg, they won't even be registered, and they'll know they're not
well,
registered.
well that's okay. Well, that's my question. If they're not registered, they shouldn't be voting anyway.
Exactly. It's not that you don't have to bring your birth certificate to the polling place.
That's
You
a
got to bring your
clarification.
ID.
Okay.
You gotta have your birth certificate to be
Okay.
registered.
And that's the clarification that everybody's missing on. There's a,
And
and,
yeah, and once you are registered with those documents, then you can show up at the polls with your state issued ID, whether it's real ID or not, because you've already done the thing at the registrar's office.
Okay, so yeah, so that's not really a problem then. And so I stand
No,
corrected in what I said last night because I mean, I'm saying because you and I both, after doing this for like 25, 30 years, we know these poll workers are not skilled or qualified to see if a birth certificate is real or fake or even proper. Because I mean, birth certificates can be from anywhere in the country, anywhere, I mean, any state or any county. And so these poll workers who get paid minimum wage to go ahead and do everything, they're not going to be qualified to make a judgment call on that on election day. And also, it'll probably make the lines very long.
right.
very slow. And so that's what the narrative of the left and everybody who's against the SAVE Act, they're saying that, well, it's going to make, people had to bring birth certificates and everything with them to go vote. I'm like, I don't think, first of
Well,
all, I don't
no,
think that's going to pass if it
no,
muster.
it's not going to be a thing like that.
No,
It's one of those. I mean, anyone telling that story is telling it simply because it makes it sound a whole lot more complicated than the bill's going to make it, and they're
right.
doing that specifically to make it.
Okay.
It's a straw. It is literally a straw man argument.
Well, it definitely is. I mean, that's the definition of a straw man argument. I mean, the whole reality here is that having a birth certificate, I mean, usually I'm assuming, this is me just assuming here, that when I register to vote, the people in Tallahassee, or because I'm in Florida, they already do their due diligence and they make sure I'm a citizen. Because in the state of Florida, we had an amendment here, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago, where in the state of Florida, you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. And so
Yeah,
we
you know,
already we already had that law here
yeah,
already.
but you know what we have in Florida? We have real ID compliant IDs.
We do,
Yeah, which means the in order to get a real ID compliant ID, you have to prove you're a citizen,
which
or it'll identify you as a non-citizen.
exactly. And it also goes back to what you and I were saying about a year ago about them getting e-verify in these elections offices. Because I mean, first of all, if you have e-verify already verifying everybody who's a registered voter, this whole Save Act thing is just another. I mean, it's so simple. It's so
Well,
so
guess what?
simple.
Yeah, guess what? There are provisions for that within the Save Act too. So if your state will do the real ID, or they'll do or they'll do the database and check all the names versus the
Exactly.
database. Either way,
It's a simple fix.
exactly. It's a simple thing, and all it is to ensure that you are in fact a citizen.
Exactly.
And then they start talking about women w'ho've been married and stuff like
But yeah,
that because, well, I mean, women who've been married and have changed their name have a very annoying process to go through to get ID, but they've all done it.
exactly. I mean, we had that issue when that started coming up here in Florida. I'm sure other states have done it, probably, but whenever Rick Scott was a governor, and it made it a little bit more complicated here to make sure that people were getting their driver's license properly, because a lot of women had different, they're using their maiden name or their second husband's name or a third husband's name or so on and so forth. And so basically, to actually prove who they were and to decrease identity theft, to stop identity theft, which is, I mean, people don't really get the whole heart of all this fraud. All of it is human trafficking, sex trafficking, gun trafficking, drug trafficking, child trafficking, and they traffic it because it's all fake identities and fake people, and they use these voter rolls to go to get combined with the driver's license or the fake IDs, and then there's no verification of anything. And this is how you keep everything straight. This is how you keep everything honest. And I mean, now granted, I'm not. You're not either. You're not for them bringing all this paperwork to a polling location. And if that were in the bill, it wouldn't be constitutional anyway. That's what I told the people last night on the other podcast. I told anybody, if that were a bill to bring all this stuff with you, the constitutionality of it is not going to stand up anyway. And secondly, the Democrats will flip it upside down once they take over the House and Senate anyhow, so it won't be a law for very long anyhow. But the reality is that's not the case. The case is you should have to have birth certificate in order to register to vote. And it also does one thing, it gets rid of same day registration, which is a scary thing for Democrats. Democrats love same day registration because there's no accountability and there's no verification.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that everyone who wants to vote can vote. But at some point you play a part in
Exactly.
in that whole thing. There's all sorts of things. If you wait to the last minute, well, you're just not going to be able to do it.
I mean, how many times can we have 120% turnout?
How many times have we uh, that's a good one actually. How many times have we had, an election that was announced we're going to have an election tomorrow? It
Exactly.
never happens. All elections have. I think there's like a minimum in Florida anyway. There's like a minimum 90-day. I like for special elections. I think there's a 90-day minimum. But although I think that they can individually pass statutes, like some special elections. That actually, come to think of it, in Florida, that
It's around
didn't the
90 days.
legislate. No, isn't it, I don't know. It isn't because they've had to do a couple. They
Yeah, there's some quick ones,
so
the
so
60-day
they
ones. Yep.
can pass a statute. They can pass a statute, a special statute, and have something, and change the parameters of a specific special election,
They can, yeah.
which they have done a couple of times when representatives have died just before session, and they wanted to make sure that they had someone in before the end of session.
To get their bill passed.
Usually get their a controversial bill passed, but
I mean,
still,
it
it is a
happens, yeah.
mechanism.
Yeah.
It is a mechanism.
I think the quickest election that I've been involved in, actually, the fastest special election was 45 days. And that was back in 2003 or 4. And that was a state rep race, I think. And I've been in a few of them. This is before I met you, I think, where
I
it's
don't know.
60
You sure it
days.
wasn't 2013?
Oh, that was the one you were in.
That was the one I was in.
And that was, I don't know, that was 60 days, I think.
Sure, I don't remember it. It
It
was when
seemed like 60 days.
yeah, it was when Ford passed away just
Right.
before session.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the election
Clay Ford.
whenever, yeah, when Clay Ford passed away. Now, people don't realize that, ironically, he won his seat by a special election because
Oh,
because he ran against George Scarborough, which is
mhm.
Joe Scarborough's brother, Morning Joe's brother. And so George ran against Clay Ford in a special election. And it was a very, very fast, rapid, I think maybe
Mhm.
60-day special election. That was organized by Jeb Bush. Jeb was the governor of Florida at the time. And so, I mean, yeah, and people don't realize, I mean, these special elections are all controlled by statutes, and the statutes are all controlled by the executive in charge, which is the governor of that state, and not by the legislature. And so, I mean, the whole reality here is that this is a good act. This is a good thing. I mean, we need to make sure the right people are voting, and this whole same day registration stuff, which is what you and I were talking about before, the whole county to county transfer thing that happened in 2024. And I guess it's been happening for a long time. Just nobody's really brought their attention to it. In a state like Florida, where you have like 26 million people, you have all these people who are theoretically real voters in like cities like Tampa, Orlando, Miami, but they're ending up moving at the last minute to rural areas in like Levy County or Alachua County or rural counties to vote. Then they move right
Mhm.
back and then they leave. They leave.
What?
What? Or did they really do that? Or were they just physically, kind of like a Georgia version of voting, where they just like photocopies of Scantrons and, somebody photoshopped a new name or something. Who knows? I mean,
I'll tell you what a really
the
fun thing
fraud
to
is
do.
fraud, 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 fraud.
I know what a really fun thing to do would be is to go to supervisors of elections offices where we know this sort of thing happens, and then watch the same day registrations, and then and then just have someone stationed there to watch them as they come in, and demand to see them. And when they show them to you, get on the phone and send someone out there to the address where they say this person lives.
That address might be an empty field.
Very often for the I mean, there are so few people who have a legitimate same day transfer need. I mean, I
Students,
would be,
college
I,
kids.
yeah, whatever. I would be shocked beyond shocked to find out that there were more than, in a county the size of Alachua, that there were more than a couple hundred. Frankly, I'd be shocked to know there was more
Nine
than 100.
9,000.
Yeah. My God, how do they have the staff to process 9,000 of those in one day? No. Liars.
Don't know that one. There's
Yeah,
no answer to
don't
that
tell
one.
me.
They're magical workers. They brought in extra staff from the university. They brought these students in to help count the votes and to count everything to make sure everything is good. Yeah, for free.
For free. And as I recall, in Alachua County, didn't an alarming number of those free workers, weren't they foreign nationals?
Actually, a large number of the transfer voters were foreign nationals from Miami.
Huh.
Let me correct myself. They were not allegedly foreign nationals, but they had foreign names, and they were from cities like Miami and Key West and Belgrade
I'm
and
talking
Miami
about the
Gardens.
Chinese poll workers.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, well, also you have poll workers who are actually telling you and encouraging you to a transfer, and they're like grabbing people off the street. You say, hey, If you're registered somewhere else in Florida, you can come in here and vote today.
Hmm.
We'll just do all the paperwork for you. Here's the reality, though. It's supposed to be a provisional ballot, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you do that, but out of these 8,500, 9,000 county transfer votes in just this one little small rural county of Alachua County, only I think a few hundred were considered provisional. That means all the other ones were thrown into a voting black hole, which, of course, everybody knows every vote is private. And so, when every vote is private and not identified separately as a provisional ballot, it cannot be analyzed or looked at as a possible fraudulent ballot. So,
Hmm.
since the ability to not look at it that way does not exist, it's just automatically assumed that it's good to go.
I still say that I would love to see, ballots, a requirement that ballots have a non-sequential serial number printed in UV ink on
Yeah.
every single one of them.
But that would take away the anonymity of the vote.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't.
That's what they say, though.
Yeah, they say a lot of stuff. In fact, I'd say a serial number and a barcode that represents that serial number, so that you can really go through real fast and scan them and
Yeah.
see, has this number already appeared, or is it even present?
What you should do is that every voter should get their own QR code.
Well, no, no. You see, that's the thing. If you tie it to a voter, then you can't, you can't really legitimately say that they're not going to track your vote. But I'm talking about doing it to a ballot. They don't. I mean, those ballots have have a serial number on them, on a
Yeah, they do.
tab that they pull off. But the problem is that there's no way to identify it, to take that serial number and tie it back to a specific ballot.
No, there's not. They should be able to.
And like I say, QR code with UV ink, non-sequential serial numbers. There's all kinds of math tricks you can do for this
There
stuff.
is.
You can.
Especially the AI.
I mean, well. Like you can take the RSA PGP stuff that they got, that's security through corporate America and frankly the military right now. I mean, they've been using it for years.
Right.
So you do a public, you do one key here, another key on the tab that gets torn off, and all you got to do is go through and say and enter all the keys and say and then scan all the ballots, and then if the ballots come with the numbers on them, then they're all good because they have to add up to a certain number. If they do, then the ballot was good. So it doesn't even have to be a serial numbered ballot. It just has to be, we got this many of this ballot.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean, the whole Save Act. I mean, and as they're talking about the Voter Rights Act or the voter thing that got passed last year, I mean, everybody who's scared to death of being voting correctly is more or less just scared to death of cheating and getting caught. I mean, there should be no fear whatsoever of doing it the right way. And like you said before, if these guys, I mean, anybody who says they don't have an ID to vote and they're still getting a social security check or a paycheck or or they are driving anywhere legally because you have to have your license with you to drive anywhere. And if you're not driving anywhere, then you had to have a license to get a utility turned on or to get a lease or to and now if you're just sleeping on couch and couch surfing, you don't have an ID, you're probably not going to vote anyway. And if you do vote, you probably have money, you probably have an ID to go get cigarettes or beer or anything you need, a lottery ticket. Or maybe you don't have any vices. Maybe you're a perfect soul, you're a perfect vessel that doesn't need to use an ID for anything whatsoever. And
But you
that's
mean like
wonderful.
for air travel?
Yeah, well, maybe you don't go on planes. Maybe you're just one of those 0.0001%. You're not a big enough number for us to care about. Okay, I mean the reality
Oh,
here,
but even one vote denied is justice denied.
but that's not one vote. That's like a fraction, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a vote. Because I mean, guys, there's a science to voting, and we know this. Likely voters are prepared to vote, and people who are not likely voters usually just do not. And now we're not saying they shouldn't vote. We're saying they should prepare themselves to vote. Take an ID with them. I mean, go to the polls legally, or if they're on the bus, go there that way. But I mean, be okay to have an ID with you. It's not going to hurt you. It ain't gonna kill you.
I'll tell you this: anyone that doesn't have the wherewithal and the resources to go vote, first off, they probably shouldn't be voting to begin with. But number two, I can't imagine that they're interested in voting. The people who are interested, look, the only people who are really freaking out about this, anyone who's opposed to showing ID for something is really in favor of fraud. And I don't mean just voting fraud. People,
Yeah,
voting
identity theft.
fraud is identity theft. Okay. Once they have your identity that way, they can have all kinds of stuff. Remember, we actually found, I forget what it was some staggering number of fake IDs that China had printed, in an
Per
effort to,
million.
yeah, it was millions for sure. So I mean, they had printed a bunch of fake IDs for people. And now, whether or not they got used, I can't say. I'm not going to say they got
Yeah,
used,
we don't
but
know.
they didn't print millions of them for no reason, just for the fun of seeing if they could.
Exactly. I mean, you don't go through that kind of work unless you actually have some sort of a ROI already built in. And their ROI, their return on investment, is to make sure they're altering elections and misaligning elections. And that's what they did. I mean, guys, we've been talking about voter fraud here. You and I have been talking about voter fraud since the early 2000s. And it's, I mean, even the race that you and I worked against each other on, in 2000, you were working for a state rep, I was working for a state rep race. And there's 2 or 3 other people in the race, and we knew that there was just, all kinds of chicanery going on the Democrat side and the other Republican side. And so, I mean, we've seen this stuff up close, so people can go ahead and gaslight themselves all they want to, but the reality here is that, I mean, even look at the 2000 election here in Florida with the Al Gore and the George Bush. I mean, basically, yeah, it was a close election, and granted, there was a lot of issues that probably hurt both sides. The reality, though, is the reason why they kept on wanting to count. The Democrats wanted to count in those certain counties and not in the other counties where, they probably would have gained if they did. But the only reason why they only cherry picked certain counties was because they knew that they kept counting that same way. They keep gaining seats for the Democrats, just like they do in California. I mean, it's a Democrat playbook. The more you count, the more Democrats, two for me, one for you, three for me, one for you, four for me, one for you. And that's the way they keep on doing it. And if people are not waking up to this fact here that they don't care about accountability, they don't care about reality in elections, they care about stacking the vote, like they want to stack the courts.
Well. I mean, let's put it this way: Florida is a red state, but there are states that are much deeper red, much
Oh, yeah,
deeper. And none of those states are interested in counting ballots after the election. If they were, I mean, the reason for them, the compelling reason for them to do it, would be so that they can manipulate the race.
exactly.
Florida's a lot more on the bubble, and we are dead set against counting after election day.
Yeah.
So it's not just something that we do. The only people that are interested in counting votes after election day are people interested in manipulating the election. You people need to understand. I love you, but you guys got to understand that they are just because you like the result this time doesn't mean that they're not establishing a pattern by which they're going to be able to seal your vote and do whatever they want to you, whether you like it or not.
And the same way it works on both sides. I mean, we're trying to stop precedents from being set, and that's one thing that we get frustrated with a lot of Republicans, and we get frustrated with a lot of Democrats because a lot of these guys think what they're doing is it's great and virtuous for right now for when they're in office, not realizing that once it's kind of like the Patriot Act. Let's start out with that. When the Democrats are in charge, you don't want all that government control, and when Republicans are in charge, they're like, oh, okay, it's okay, and nobody's really making legislation right now that looks, 10 steps down the road. And that's one thing this SAVE Act does do. The SAVE Act is actually setting a precedent that you do not cheat. You have to be a U.S. citizen, and that is a good precedent to set. And there should be no, I mean, any Republican who's waffling on this, or any Republican who's using this for grandstanding for any other reason, or any Democrat who's even thinking about, this or being against it, is just basically putting the vote of the people second, their own selfish, aggrandizement and their own selfish fundraising needs first. because this is all about fundraising, as we always say on almost every show. And that's what, these guys are all trying to raise money off this. And I think a lot of Republicans are blowing it up big on their side so they can raise money on their side. And the whole thing is like we said before the show, I miss Tom DeLay. I don't miss the scandal he was in, but Tom DeLay, Dick Armey, and Richard Gephardt, I mean, and the Democrat side, where everybody worked together, and then we thought those were evil Democrats, and evil, Republicans. Everybody thought that everybody was evil back then, but they actually got the government running, and they were able to work from both sides of the aisle to make it work without all the hyperbole and everything else. They were able to negotiate. Now, they weren't playing games. Now, all this gamesmanship on both sides has got to stop. Guys, get back to, I mean, we're suffering out here. I mean, I understand the news says the economy is going great. That's wonderful. We ain't feeling it yet. And so we need to start feeling it. And y'all need to quit playing games and put all of us here first. All of you, matter of
Well,
fact.
we have to delineate between today problems and having and the opportunity to have a future.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I go back. I go back to my little weight loss journey. I lost like 35 pounds a couple of years ago, just taking some supplements and but not doing much else. And I didn't even realize I was losing weight until one day I was just like miserable the whole time, going, "Oh, I wish I could
Right.
lose some weight. I wish I could lose weight." And then one day I don't have any more notches in my belt any more, to tighten my belt up anymore. Like, oh my God,
Yep.
I lost a bunch of weight. How that happened? Well,
Exactly.
that's what this economy is. It doesn't happen all in one day. It happens incrementally.
It does. And it happened incrementally, but at the same time, I was actually talking to somebody today. I think the biggest difference between this administration for Trump and the first administration for Trump was the whole deregulation process and the aggressiveness nature of how in the first administration they deregulated everything at a fury. And right now, the government's getting involved, in my opinion, too much in a lot of private areas. I mean, or government should be out of everything. And I mean, I think it's
No,
not.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just struggling to know what you're talking about with they're getting involved in stuff.
Well, no, well, I guess let me rephrase it. They're not getting out fast enough of everything.
Whoa.
They're not deregulating fast enough. So a lot more government bureaucracy than we should be having at this stage of the game of his presidency. Then again, I also realize it took 2 years for all that to happen, and I know it seems like 2 or 3 years. We're only a year in still, so I mean,
Hmm.
we're still brand new in this, and Biden did screw it up a lot more than Obama did. I will say that. Biden put a lot more regulation on the government than Obama did. And so there's a lot more to undo now, the second presidency for Trump, than he had to undo in the first presidency that he had
Hmm.
with Obama's regulation or regulatory behaviors. And so, I mean, there's a lot more work to do. And I just cannot wait till all the gamesmanship and all the pontificating and all the bullshit just stops and they start, putting everything first and getting back to the economy immediately. Now.
Yeah. I'm sitting there going through X, and I'm seeing things like there's one that says women should not have to do one single extra thing that a man to vote that a man does, and I'm like, well, I don't conceptually disagree with that. So maybe you don't change your name.
Yeah, and don't get married.
I don't get married, keep your maiden name, keep your maiden
Exactly.
name as your keep your maiden name as your legal name, and go by your husband's name as a stage name or something like that.
Exactly. That'd be perfect. Go ahead and keep your maiden name
Just
and,
yeah.
and don't take your spouse's name. Just go ahead and throw that out
Well,
the
don't
window.
legally take it. Don't
Don't
legally.
legally. Exactly. Don't legally take it. And that way you don't have to worry about the paperwork.
You know about paper. I mean, people don't go get guys named Charles don't go get their paperwork redone when people start calling them Chuck.
Why not?
Don't. You know,
Exactly. I
just
mean,
if you want to do that, just make it an informal process. The name change an informal process so that everyone knows, this is me and my family, but legally this is who I am. And that
right.
happens every day. If you're worried that you're going to have to do one more extra thing that your husband's not going to have to do, then don't do it.
Boo-hoo. Exactly, and boo-hoo. Get over it, guys. Voting is a privilege, guys. I mean, it's your voice. Do what you need to do to make your voice heard. period. I mean, all these rioters out there and all these school campus riots and everything else, which seems to be slowing down here this year because they are now rioting against ICE. And so it's a new flavor of the week, and ICE is a new flavor for this year's rioting, and riot, I guess, professional rioters. But I mean, it seems to be now it's going to be about voting and voting rights, and basically saying that illegal should vote. And they want to die on that hill. Go ahead, be on that hill, have fun with it,
Good luck with that
do
one,
it. It's not even an 80-20
please.
issue; it's a 95-5 issue.
Yeah, that is in particular.
Yeah, I mean that's actually and the biggest reason why they voted for Trump. And I'm not happy with everything he's done, but the two biggest things that he has done, three biggest things I'm very happy with: the border, the immigration, and basically making sure everything is done properly with elections. And I mean that's going good. I mean nobody can really say that they are happy or unhappy that that crime is going down. Now, some people say, well, they're federalizing the National Guard. They're bringing the National Guard in. I said, well, the reality here is this: the Democrat governors who have the National Guard want Trump impeached or imprisoned. First of all, so let's just start out there. Secondly, they're not going to invite any National Guard to their own state because they don't want anybody to look underneath the covers and see where all the fraud is. And so that's the reality here.
Well, the bottom line is that we wouldn't have ICE agents in the street going door to door, and they're
Yeah,
not even going door to door, but
no,
like
they're not.
claiming like they're going door to door. We wouldn't have them in the street at all. We wouldn't
We
have
wouldn't need them.
ICE agents apprehending people in the street or anywhere if these states would simply turn
Exactly.
over the ones that are already in jail.
Or if they just did their job. I mean, if they could actually, fund their own law enforcement and keep the drugs and the crime off the streets. Now, people were telling me that, these criminals and these crime is from drugs and violence. I'm like, so I don't care what it's from. The whole idea here is the National Guard is going there to help keep people safe and alive, and that should be a good thing. Now, yeah, are they federalized? Yeah, they are. Okay, blah blah. I was in the military, and I was in the Air Force, which is federalized Air Force, and I was in there in basic training with guys who were going into the Air National Guard. They train with us, and they train the same way as the active duty does versus a guard duty, and so the training is still the same. So, guys, wake up to the fact here that they're in law enforcement to protect and defend the America against foreign enemies, foreign and domestic, foreign and domestic, foreign and domestic. And so the
Well, I'm
point,
go
get
ahead, go
over
ahead.
it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is just get over it. The National Guard is doing their job. And if they're going into cities to keep people safe and alive, that's a good damn thing.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is if the people in charge of these cities, because we're actually just talking about cities there. When we talk
Right,
sending the National Guard in to take care of these places, it's the cities. It's not the states because someone has repeatedly and very aptly pointed out that there are no blue states at all. There's just states with large blue cities in them that eclipse the desires of the people in the rural areas.
right. Yeah, because geographically, there are no blue states.
No, no, no. There are no blue states. There's just a bunch of big blue cities.
Yeah, like New York.
Uh,
Like, take New
right.
York. How many counties in New York are red?
Oh my God. To think that someone could possibly screw up New York worse than Ed Koch did,
They
and
have.
for and they have certainly voted for someone to do that. Mondani is absolutely keeping his campaign promises, and it is having predictable effects. He is proposing to cut the New York Police Department
Really.
so that he can make his budget. He's proposing cuts to the police department.
And this is why the National
How could
Guard
that possibly go wrong?
and this is why the National Guard is needed. I mean,
Uh,
basically, if they were doing their job, we wouldn't have to send anybody there. If they were keeping their law enforcement funded, trained, and well armed, and well protected, and trained, and everything. We wouldn't have this issue, guys. We have this issue because there's a shortage of law enforcement, there's a shortage of pay, there's a shortage of resources. The states keep cutting their budgets, they keep cutting their budgets, they keep cutting their budgets. They keep not worrying about security or safety of their own people. They don't care about the lives of their own citizens. So somebody has got to take care of them. No, I'm not into
Well,
Big
the
Brother, but somebody's got to keep them alive.
no, but the issue with law enforcement is they do a couple of things. One, they understaff them, as you kind of pointed out. But the other is that they hamstring them to the point to where you can't get these people. You can't get them
Exactly.
arrested. You can't keep them in jail because because you have the DAs that they're going, oh well, no cash bail, and that wasn't a violent offense, so we're going to let this guy go. Kind
Exactly.
of, don't you do it? Don't you do it?
They're
Well, guess what?
redefining the entire incidences, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, once they commit a criminal act and they realize they're not going to get caught, there are not going to be any real consequences. Then what's their incentive to not keep taking care? See that they have most of the people that commit fraud based type things are doing it because they covet something. They have some need. They want to they want that car. They want that fix. More often than not, it's a drug problem, if they want that. And so once they get away with it once, the next time, well, shoot, nothing really happened. So there's no negative consequence. All there is the reward. And the reward reinforces their likeliness that they're going to do this again
Exactly.
and again.
Exactly, and it just keeps happening and happening and happening, and they keep getting away with it, and they wonder why. And granted, yeah, it looks the optics of it are not wonderful. I get it. I get the Trump sending these National Guard into places. I get all the analogies and blah blah blah, but hey, I don't care. The reality is different than the optics, and the reality is different than the fake analogies. The reality is that he is trying to keep America safe. And that's what he said during the campaign. And if your governors and your mayors and your local commissioners do not want to keep your citizens safe, somebody says, why am I voting for the federal government to do that? I'm like, you vote for the federal government to do all kinds of crap with your money that has nothing to do with keeping anybody safe. Go ahead and give them a mulligan here, okay? Let them take this one, okay?
We need any mulligans. We need these state officials to start behaving
Exactly.
like they care about the people who
People.
elected them. Because the fact of the matter is that the optics of these National Guard troops going in wouldn't be bad if the governors and mayors were cooperating. These
Exactly.
people, I mean, how many people have to die every single day before we decide, that's a lot of people. Maybe we should do something about that. Maybe we should pull, federal government. I mean, President Obama, President Biden, President whomever. We need some help in here. Please help us. Send some troops in here. Give us a 30 or a 60-day little deployment of troops so that we can have our police officers, because it's the presence of these guys that puts the whole thing down. So we can have our police officers catch a break and go and catch up some of the worst offenders, and then take back the reins after 60 days or something like that, just long enough to kind of keep these guys, the organized groups of criminals off balance, and the idiots in jail.
I think there's some stats. I was listening to Handy, and now granted he's low bias and everything, but he's a Republican talk show guy. But the stats were actually pretty real, and about how many of these legals that are being arrested are actually very, very bad people. I mean, I mean, we're not talking about 60-40 here or 70-30. We're talking about 98-2. Okay, 98% of these guys are criminals, pedophiles, human traffickers, murderers, thieves, rapists. They're bad people. And the idea that people want to defend them or defend all this attempt of going after them. Now, granted, am I for ICE arresting U.S. citizens and getting everything screwed up? Nobody's for that. However, is it their fault that the U.S. citizens got in the way? No, it's not. A lot of these liberal uh, protesters and everything else just want to get involved in protests and feel all victory, virtuous and everything else. I'm going to go ahead and fight the cops for you and fight. I mean, guys, you know, get over, stop, just stop, okay?
I have yet to see one of these poster children of why this is evil. I've yet to see one where we didn't once we heard the rest of the story, it was like, oh, well, I see that.
Paul
I
Harvey.
mean, they very, very conveniently leave out some important details, and they've been bouncing around this statistic for the last couple of weeks, that they actually got from Homeland Security, but they're taking it out of context because the statistic says that only 16% of these people that they're deporting are violent criminals. All right.
Well, what's violent?
Yeah, they leave out the violent part and say that only 16% of these people are guilty of are guilty of any crimes. Well, 100% of them are guilty of being in the country illegally,
Yeah.
and the ones that aren't guilty of specifically violent crimes like murder, rape, assault, and things like that are guilty of fraud and various kinds of fraud. Why is it that the only thing that qualifies you to get kicked out of the country is the fact that you physically hurt somebody? How about you ruined their life by stealing everything they got? Or
Which goes back to the voting issue and the SAVE Act.
or they're guilty of drug trafficking, and so they're still guilty of hurting people just by proxy. How many times are the Democrats going to have to be caught in such blatant lies before people feel betrayed?
I don't know. I don't think there's any limit.
It's not looking like it.
It doesn't
Anyway,
look like it. I mean, they're doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on this entire story here, and they did not want to get rid of the narrative that is a reality. The reality here is that this voter issues, the Voting Act, all this stuff is all tied together. It's all one big circle of transparency. And you guys are addicted to fraud because once again, it goes back to money and fundraising.
they're addicted to being on the team that is fighting for truth, justice, and, well, I would say the American
No,
way,
they're
but they're not
not.
fighting for the American way.
They're fighting for their way. It's all
They're
about
fighting for they're fighting for the social justice warrior way.
it's not even social justice. I mean, that's just another.
No, it's not social justice. It's social justice warriorism.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just sad. I mean, it leaves me speechless. I mean, after watching this so much and talking to so many people, I mean, yeah, granted, I don't want any of the atrocities to happen. I don't want Renee Good to die or anybody to get shot.
No,
I didn't want
no.
her to run. I didn't want her to run away from a cop or hit a cop either. I mean, people don't realize all these things that happen there's a causation to everything that's happening. I mean, granted, are some of these guys ill trained? Sure, they are. Cops are ill trained. Military guys are ill trained. People that work in every employment world at your fast food or your hospital, there's bad training everywhere. Okay, but you just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit on that bad training because a lot of this stuff is a lot less, about bad training and a lot more about just being thrown out to the wolves. I still am struggling to understand why when Trump put these guys out there, that he didn't have them just just arresting every single. You have one team that's doing the arrest of the illegal alien, and then a whole different team that's there watching these protesters come in and violate the law. By getting in the middle of this stuff. I mean, even mainstream legacy media will sit there and say that this person was arrested because it was just arrested for no reason. Well, no reason other than the fact that the cop told him one story was that they were threatening people with tasers, but they left out the fact that he was trying to secure a suspect, and this person was like 2 feet away from him, screaming at him, and he didn't know what they were going to do. They probably could
No,
have taken her, but he could have also been shot by her, not knowing it. So telling her to stand back because I'm going to tase you is entirely appropriate.
it is. I mean, just out of curiosity, I mean, are you in your AI right now? Or your Grok
Yeah, I got
world?
yeah.
Go ahead and ask Grok how many people have been arrested from ICE since Trump has been arrested. I mean, sorry, not arrested. He was arrested last term. Since he has been president, how many have been arrested by ICE? Then how many have died? Yeah. And you're looking at 0.0000, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, guys, I mean, and I will push back on your pushback about the training. On training, You have bad training, maybe like 2 or 3% of the officers are bad, we talk about.
That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about if we look at the stats here, we're probably looking at probably less than 1%. I mean, we're about to run the numbers here real quick and find out, but I mean, guys, it's infinitesimal, baby numbers. If I was a human trafficker in Colombia or Mexico, I'd be so happy with the Democratic Party right now. They'd be my best
Well,
friend.
you mean unlike they've been with the past for the past 8 years or four
I
years,
mean,
I guess.
20 years. Yeah, because people don't realize like Eric Holder was a big trafficker with all the cartel guys in Fast and Furious as the Attorney General of the United States under Obama. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying Obama had anything to do with that or not. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. I am so inclined to believe just about any allegation of corruption, unless it's very ham-handed. Even if it's Republicans, like my mother was at dinner was talking about Trump or about AOC and how she'd seen something that she didn't believe that AOC was being investigated for how she made money. And I'm like, yeah, and that she was somehow connected to Ilhan Omar. And I'm like, well, do I believe that? No. Do I mean, AOC may be guilty of some sort of fraud. I don't know, but I have no reason to believe she is. She's worth a lot of money, and she's never had, other than this, congressional office, she's never had a job more sophisticated than a bartender. But she is. I mean, she makes money off fundraising. I mean, just
Certainly.
flat out, she makes money off fundraising. Is it icky? Yeah, it sure is. But is it illegal? No, it's just gross. I mean, it's literally manipulating people and depriving them of their hard-earned money for something that you don't even believe.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't like. Good Lord, some of these AIs, man, I tell you, man, we must be in peak time.
Yeah. Well, so far I got 147,000 arrests in 2025 and 30 deaths. So it's 30 divided by 147,000. We're talking about 0.00002%.
It's 2 per thousand.
Exactly. Two thousandths of a percent. 2 thousandths of a percent. And that's what we're talking about, guys. That's very good numbers, actually. That's very good training. That's actually spectacular because I mean, that's good. You got 147,000 arrests and you have only 30 or so passed away as a result.
Oh,
And
no, it's 2 per 10,000. It's 1 per
yeah,
5,000.
right. It's point zero zero. I guess three zeros, 0.0002. And that's not bad. And these are National Guard and ICE agents who are poorly trained, horrible people who are out there hurting everybody, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I don't want that many people dying, but the thing
Yeah, I
is
don't
is
either.
the thing is, when you get in a confrontation with the police, you are taking your life in your hands. I mean, these people, I've seen so many videos of idiots just screaming at these cops and punching at them and stuff like that. What do you think's going to happen? These guys don't are armed to the teeth and they've got armor on, so you're not going to hurt them very much, and they are going to waylay you. And you think, and you're going to complain? It reminds me of when I was 17 and my 7-year-old brother would just sit there and just like poke in my face, like sit next to me on the couch and just like put his hands in my face just because he knew it annoyed me. And eventually he got smacked. And I got in trouble because it was inappropriate. I shouldn't be smacking my 7-year-old brother. But if someone had been parenting him, okay, and keeping him off me because they were watching him do it, then we wouldn't have had a problem.
Yeah, and right now I just ran the numbers for Chicago. 187 murders in Chicago in 2024, 416 murders in Chicago in 2025, and nobody's protesting anything about the drug dealers or the human traffickers that killed them. Nobody's protesting any of the murderers.
Actually, what you're saying is there are far more people organically killed, murdered in one city than have died in police custody in the entire
Nationwide.
nation.
Yeah. So, why don't we start doing protests against those guys? Why don't we start protesting the drug dealers and protesting the human? Or wait a second, maybe that's what ICE is trying to do. They're trying to arrest the people who are funding and bringing the drugs and the guns to those people who are killing that many people in 1 year, in one city, in 1 year, in one city, in one city, in 1 year, as opposed to the ICE atrocities nationwide under 50, under 40. Come on.
Ridiculous.
Give me
Ridiculous.
give me a smoke break, guys. This is
Oh,
pathetic. I mean, and that's about all I got for the day.
yeah, I was gonna say we've kind of beat this horse to death, and sadly, it'll be resurrected tomorrow, and we'll have to beat it to death again.
That horse is still running everywhere.
Yeah, I know, right.
But yeah, guys, join us on all of our wonderful social media platforms. We are on Amazon Music, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Deezer. Whoever watches Deezer, thank you. We're getting a lot of watches on Deezer and Discord. We're going to be starting on Discord and Reddit here next week. So just chime in, comment. A lot of y'all think we're crazy. That's okay.
You know what? If you think I'm crazy, that's fine. But don't say I'm crazy. Tell me why I'm crazy.
Exactly. And just don't say we're full of bullshit. Tell us why we're full of bullshit.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that I'm crazy because everyone proclaims me crazy. I want to hear what it is exactly I said that was crazy. What
Exactly.
is it that you disagree with? Please bring it.
Exactly. And we're going to be putting a link in our description here, some new links here to go visit. And so go ahead and do that. And we look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Thanks a lot, Scott. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Absolutely, lots of fun.
Okay. Bye bye.